Hi everyone. Let us discuss about the physiology of hearing in this presentation. This is a very important topic actually. There are many questions that have been repeatedly asked from this topic, and they have been asked in a different varieties of ways. They may be asked for 4 marks, they may be asked for 2 marks. But to have a complete concept of this physiology of hearing, I am putting this entire chapter together. Entire chapter together, so that this is like not straight. Entire chapter together so that you can pick up what you need. Once you have the grasp over the entire topic, it will be really quite easy to answer the individual questions, whether it is a mechanism of hearing or the physiology of hearing. Physiology of hearing, they are going to ask a lot. Theories of hearing, this is quite a small answer. The curved membrane effect, this is like 2 marks, I think. Hydraulic action of the tympanic membrane, these are small. Too short, very short note. This may be like mechanism of hearing is quite big and physiology of hearing is quite big. So this has been repeatedly asked. So, and also it is important from the NEET PG point of view. So let us start the topic. Now coming to the basics, how sound is heard. Sound arrives at the tympanic membrane. So here this is the external auditory canal and this is the tympanic membrane here, and the sound waves are coming and striking the tympanic membrane. This causes the tympanic membrane to move. That movement is transmitted to the ossicles, that is the malleus, incus and the stapes. This causes displacement of the ossicles, and finally what do we have? We have the footplate of the stapes, which is at the oval window, which is going to cause a pressure wave in the scala vestibuli of the cochlea. So this is filled up with the perilymph. Now this pressure wave will pass all the way to the apex of the cochlea. The scala vestibuli and the scala tympani are connected to each other through this opening at the apex of the cochlea called the helicotrema. So this is the same pressure wave will come back from the helicotrema to the round window in the scala tympani, and it will cause bulge of the round window outwards. So the pressure wave, the sound pressure wave causes vibration of the tympanic membrane. That vibration is transmitted to the ossicles, which causes the footplate of the stapes to push against the oval window, and that pressure causing a pressure wave to start, and that pressure wave will move all the way from the base of the cochlea to the apex of the cochlea in the scala vestibuli, and then through the helicotrema it will go back from the apex of the cochlea to the base of the cochlea in the scala tympani, and finally causing a little bit of a bulge of the round window. That is how it happens. And when this pressure wave is passing along, you have what is called the organ of Corti in the scala media. That, and on what is the organ of Corti based? The organ of Corti here is based, this is the basilar membrane, then the organ of Corti is based on this basilar membrane. Okay, so this causes the basilar membrane to move. This causes the so the pressure waves distort the basilar membrane on their way to the round window of the tympanic duct. Yeah, this is what I talked about. Then the vibration of the basilar membrane causes the vibration of the hair cells against the tectorial membrane. So here is what it is happening. So when the pressure wave is going from the scala vestibuli and coming out through the scala tympani, this causes this is the basilar membrane. The basilar membrane is going to move, and at one particular point the basilar membrane is going to move more. It is going to reach its maximum and then die off sharply. The point where this is reaching its maximum amplitude, the wave is reaching its maximum amplitude on the basilar membrane. At the point, the organ of Corti, the hair cells which are going on to into the tectorial membrane, they will move more. There is a lot of movement, and that information is passed on through the cochlear nerve, which is a part of the vestibular cochlear nerve, the eighth nerve, to the central nervous system, and this is how the sound is heard. Okay. What did we say? If the vibration of the basilar membrane causes vibration of the hair cells against the tectorial membrane, and this information about the region and the intensity of stimulation, that which, suppose you have this basilar membrane here, suppose we have this basilar membrane from the apex, from the base of the cochlea, it is going to the apex of the cochlea. So if you remove it and put it in a straight, if you put it on the table like a straight piece, then that particular area which is getting stimulated, which is reaching the maximum amplitude, that area is having this hair cells. Those hair cells are going to get stimulated, and that information is passed on to the central nervous system. So it is an entire basilar membrane is moving, but only one part of the basilar membrane reaches maximum intensity, and that information is passed on to the central nervous system through the eighth nerve. Okay, so this is the same thing. This is the scala vestibuli we talked about. This is the scala tympani, and this is the scala media. This is the organ of Corti. This is the organ of Corti. So you can think of this organ, this cochlea, as having three tubes. Okay, as having three tubes. The above tube is a scala vestibuli, and the middle tube is a scala media, and the lower tube is a scala tympani. So the scala vestibuli is filled, or it is covered by opening onto the middle ear. Base of the cochlea is the oval window. Okay, and this is the scala tympani is covered by the round window. Okay, here we have the oval window, we have the foot plate of the stapes. Here it is just a membrane. Okay, so these two things will get connected to each other at the region of the helicotrema. This scala media is having all the real things like the hair cells on which is present a tectorial membrane. So this is going to move. When there is a pressure wave like this going on, the basilar membrane will move. Okay, this is what I wanted to tell. Right now, based on now we have understood how the hearing works. So it has what is called the conductive component, and then you have what is called a sensory component. Sensory component, this is what is converting, this is a sensory apparatus. Okay, this is converting this is where the transduction of sound occurs. That is, the sound energy is converted into electrical impulses because of the hair cells of the cochlea. So this is what is basically the sensory apparatus or the sensory part, and this is what in a deaf mute child in whom the cochlea is not functioning, we can put a cochlear implant. So we can only replace the cochlea. We cannot do anything with the nerve. Children whom the cochlea is not well developed, we can put a cochlear implant. So this cochlea is doing the function of transduction of sound. That is, it is converting the sound energy into pulses. So that becomes the sensory part or the cochlear part, and then you have the neural part. Where the central, from here right to the auditory cortex area, Brodmann's area 41, this all thing comes under the neural part. Okay, that is the transmission of those electrical impulses and recognition of the sound. This whole thing comes under retrocochlear. We call it retrocochlear because it is after the cochlea, also called the neural part of this transmission of sound. Okay, then based on that, we are dividing it into conductive deafness. From pinna to the foot plate of the stapes occurs conduction of sound. Any defect here causes conductive deafness. So suppose there is wax here, this causes conductive deafness. Suppose there is a tympanic membrane perforation, this is conductive deafness. Suppose there is ossicular dislocation, suppose there is otosclerosis. So all this till the foot plate of the stapes, if there is any problem that occurs here, it comes under conductive deafness. Okay, if there is any problem with the organ of Corti, like for example in Meniere's disease, there will be swelling, hydrops, endolymphatic hydrops. this tube that is we have in the middle, that is the cochlear duct on the scala media. This one starts bulging, and so that is one of the examples of the cochlear or the sensory kind of deafness. Now, if there is any acoustic neuroma, whether there is any neuroma of the eighth nerve, then you will have a neural kind of deafness. In clinical practice, when we divide it, we usually talk whether in terms of conductive, sensorineural or mixed, because sensory and differentiate. Unless there is a real need to differentiate, we don't really differentiate, because what we see, Putin audiometry kind of findings, both of them are the same. Only when we have some doubt that it may be causing defect of the nerves, only then we go for an MRI. Otherwise, sensory and neural, we always group it together. Okay, sensory and neural, we group it together. Mixed deafness, what is mixed deafness? There is a defect involving both the conductive and the sensorineural pathway. What is an example for that? The example for that will be cochlear otosclerosis. So, sclerosis, there is some new bone formation causing fixation of the foot plate of the stapes to the oval window. Okay, at the same time, this extra bone formation that is occurring is releasing toxins into the inner ear fluids, causing sensory kind of deafness. So in this patient is going to have mixed kind of deafness. Also, you can have it in central perforation, long-standing central perforation, because of the toxins, because of the repeated infections. Also, there is a perforation causing conductive kind of deafness, and also the toxins can go through the round window membrane into the cochlea, causing sensory neural or mixed. So they are having conductive plus sensory neural kind of deafness. So there will be mixed kind of deafness. Mixed kind of deafness, especially in cases of tympanoplasty, we do check for mixed hearing loss, and we tell the patient that in such a case, in whom there is also a sensorineural component, we don't expect a very good hearing, a very good improvement in hearing. So we do have to counsel the patients before only that, see, you are having mixed kind of. So the nerves are also damaged because of long-standing CSOM. So don't expect that your hearing will be normal or like the other ear, if the other ear is normal. So this is how it is important from the clinical point of view. So what is it? Types of hearing loss. One is conductive, another is sensorineural, another is mixed. Okay, I have also given you some examples for that. Now coming to mechanism of hearing. Now, till now, what we were talking on was like basic. Now we are coming to the real thing. Okay, this mechanism of hearing, to be very frank, I really couldn't grasp the concept behind it during my undergraduation. Okay, I just studied it and then we wrote the exam. But what is the concept behind it? So the basic thing is, suppose your friend is swimming inside a swimming pool, okay, and you are standing outside the swimming pool, and this guy is inside the swimming pool. If you try to shout at him, if you want to talk to him, if you want to convey some message, all your sound will get reflected right back at the surface of the water. 99% of the sound will get reflected back. Okay. So this is the same thing that is happening in the mechanism of hearing also. So you have the external auditory canal, you have the pinna, you have the external auditory canal. This is the middle ear tube. This is the inner ear, the cochlea and the nerve. Okay. So here the sound is traveling in air. Here the sound is traveling also in air also, but it is conducted through the ossicles, but this is also considered like passing through the air. But here what do we have? We have the perilymph and endolymph. Okay. Perilymph and endolymph. So this is the fluid, and in the fluid is what is present, the hair cells. So these hair cells are the ones who have to receive those sounds so that they can convert it into pulses, so that it can go to the brain. Okay. So here is a problem comes. Till here the sound is passing through the air, and suddenly there is fluid here. So that is why the middle ear is not just a conductive apparatus. For a long time, I used to understand that the middle ear is just conducting the sound. The conducting the sound, it is actually increasing the amplitude of the sound, increasing the force of the sound. Suppose that, as we are going to see, the middle ear steps up the intensity of the sound. Suppose you are getting a sound at, say, 1 unit of some energy. Okay, what does the middle ear do? Middle ear takes this 1 unit of energy and steps it up 18 to 22 times that energy. Okay, now that is a phenomenal thing. Really, if you get 1 unit of energy, just because the way the middle ear is designed, it is taking that 1 unit of energy and increasing it. The energy is increased to times, the force is increased and presented to the middle inner ear, to present it to the inner ear fluids, that is at the oval window. So it is increasing. So do not be in a misunderstanding or a misconception that the middle ear, because it is having 3 ossicles, it is just conducting the sound. Whatever the tympanic membrane is vibrating, the 3 ossicles will vibrate, and that vibration will be passed on to the oval window, stapes oval window, and into the scala vestibuli. No, it is stepping up the intensity of the sound by 18 to 22 times. Now that is what is called the transformer action of the middle ear. So middle ear is converting. Okay, before that I want to talk to you about what is impedance, and what is low impedance, and what is high impedance. Okay, so first we had this example of called the swimming pool, where the air is passing through, sound is passing through air, which is having low impedance, and suddenly there is fluid because it is having high impedance. So the same thing is there here also. To overcome this and to match the impedance, what is impedance? Impedance basically means resistance to the flow of energy. Air, it is having low impedance. The energy through air is easy compared to any fluid. There is high impedance. It is giving more resistance to this flow of energy. So to overcome this change in the medium and to match the impedance, that is resistance to the flow of energy of the middle ear, which is having low impedance, to that of the inner ear, which is having high impedance, the middle ear acts as a transformer. So this is the pinna, external auditory canal. Now let us separate the middle ear, and this is the inner ear fluids. So here we have air going, sound waves going through air, which is a low impedance system, and here we have sound waves going through fluid, which is having a high impedance system. So middle ear is basically taking this energy, sound energy, increasing it to 18 to 22 times, and it is presenting it to the inner ear fluids, and thus it is able to convert sound of greater amplitude and lesser force to that of lesser amplitude and greater force. It is increasing the force of the sound. This is what you have to remember. It is increasing the force of the sound. It is converting sound of greater amplitude. Amplitude is this one, right? From the baseline, how much it is going up. That is increasing the sound of greater amplitude and lesser force to lesser amplitude and greater force. So that is able to do that. The middle ear is not just a conductive apparatus. So it steps up the intensity of sound during normal hearing. Not only do we have to realize that middle ear is not only stepping up the intensity of sound during normal hearing, some have a very high intensity sound like a bomb blast or something, which is 70 to 100 decibels above the hearing threshold. Now this is the important thing. Suppose there is a patient or a person is there whose hearing is usually normal people, it is between 10 to 20 decibels. That is the hearing threshold, 10 to 20 decibels. But what is happening? You have a bomb blast, which the sound is coming at around 120 decibels. Okay, 120 decibels. So this sound, if it is just transmitted by the middle ear, by again increasing its force, imagine what is going to happen to the inner ear fluids. The whole inner ear will get blasted. To prevent that, the middle ear is also having a protective mechanism by stapedius tendon, by stapedius and tensor tympanic muscle. So what do? They contract they contract. The stapedius and the tensor tympani muscles contract when there is a loud sound. When there is loud sound means 70 to 100 decibels greater than the hearing threshold. Then they both contract, causing dampening of those vibrations, and they do not let that energy go into the inner ear fluids to damage the inner ear fluids. So it is also acting as a protective mechanism. So it is not a passive conductive apparatus. So I'm repeating again and again so that you don't make the mistake that I made, that it is not a passive conductive apparatus. So it is not a passive conducting apparatus. It's actually a very active and dynamic thing, the middle ear. It is stepping up the intensity during normal hearing, and it is stepping down the intensity when there is a loud sound, which is 70 to 100 decibels above the hearing threshold, with the help of stapedius muscle and tensor tympani muscles. Okay, now coming to the transformer action. Now, how does this middle ear achieve this transformer action or the step up action, where it is increasing the sound, where it is increasing the force of the sound 18 to 22 times? How does it do that? It does that by the help of 5 components. The first one is called the areal ratio, ratio of the areas, areas of what? Areas of tympanic membrane and stapes footplate. Okay, so this is the areal ratio. Second one is the lever ratio. Lever ratio, the relative lengths of the handle of the malleus and the long process of the incus. So this is actually a lever system that is there. So this the handle of malleus, the malleus is 1.3 times longer than the long process of the incus. So that is called the lever ratio, lever between the malleus and the incus. Okay, malleus and the incus. The third one is the curved membrane effect. So in the word only we have the curved membrane effect. The tympanic membrane is not like a flat drum. It is actually curved inside because of the the tensor tympanic tendon is pulling it inward. So there is a curved membrane effect. What is fourth one? Fourth one is the phase difference. What is the phase difference? We are going to talk about it, but basically it is the oval window and the round window do not vibrate simultaneously. When oval window is in compression, the round window will be in rarefaction. Okay, so that is a phase difference. Fifth one is the natural resonance of external and middle ear. Natural resonance means suppose you have the various parts, right? External canal, pinna, tympanic membrane, middle ear, ossicles. Okay, all these have a natural resonance, as we are going to talk about. So if that energy comes, if that sound frequency comes, then that sound frequency is accentuated. So this also helps in increasing the force of the sound. Always remember, the force of the sound is increased by the middle ear. That is what is called the transformer action of the middle ear. Okay, now coming to the areal ratio. Now, what is it? Now, if this is the tympanic membrane, and it is curved inside. Because of this handle of the malleus. Okay, the total area of the tympanic membrane is square, 90 millimeter square, but the entire tympanic membrane does not vibrate. Only the periphery of the tympanic membrane, it vibrates more than the central part. Because it is attached, it does not vibrate as much. So they say that the effective vibratory area is 45 millimeter square. Some of them say it is 55 millimeter square. So the effective vibratory area is either 45 or 55 millimeter square. What is the total area? Total area is 90 millimeter square. Important NEET PG question. So you have to remember this. So there is a total tympanic membrane area, and also there is an effective vibratory area. Effective vibratory area is 45 to 55 millimeter square. Okay. So what is the area of the footplate of the stapes? Footplate of the stapes is only 3.2 millimeter square. Now where is 45? It is such a big number compared to 3.2 millimeter square. So this is the same energy that is being transmitted from the tympanic membrane for footplate of the stapes, but tympanic membrane. So that is what we are going to say here. When sound gets concentrated from a large area to a small area, the force of the sound gets increased depending on the ratio of the two areas. Okay, so you have a sound from a large area, it is transmitted to the sound of a smaller area. then the force increases as per the ratio of the two areas. So what we have, 45 divided by 3.2, or it is 55 divided by 3.2. It is going to come either 14:1 or 17:1. This is the aerial ratio, and this is the most powerful transformer action compared to all those five that we just listed: aerial ratio, lever ratio, curved membrane effect, phase difference, and natural resonance. Out of all these five, the aerial ratio is having the biggest part in doing the transformer action. Okay, so let me just repeat. When sound gets concentrated from a large area to a sound area, the force of the sound gets increased depending on the ratio of the two areas. Depending on the ratio of the two areas, the sound gets increased. What is the sound is increased by 14 times to 17 times. Okay, so this is the aerial ratio, 14:1 to 17:1, depending on the areas of the two things, that is the tympanic membrane and stapes. Okay, now we'll come to the lever ratio. Now, lever ratio depends on what? The handle of the malleus is 1.3 times longer than the long process of the incus. Okay, so this handle of the malleus, this is the handle of the malleus. It is 1.3 times longer than the long process of the incus. Long process of the incus. So the force of the sound is increased 1.3 times. So did you see that the aerial ratio is 14 to 17 times? A lever ratio is 1.3 times. Okay, 1.3 times the force of the sound is increased. Okay, so lever ratio, the force of the sound is increased 3.2. Lever ratio is 1.3:1. So what is the total transformer ratio? Total transformer ratio, you have to multiply aerial ratio into lever ratio, that is 14 or 17 to 1.3. That's how you will come to 18 or 22. That's what I said just now, that the force of the sound is increased. Force of the sound is increased by 18 to 22 times because of aerial ratio and lever ratio. Multiply these two, you will get this number. Okay, sound pressure applied to inner ear at the stapes foot plate is 18 to 20 times. It is not just the sound. Sound has amplitude. Sound is also an energy. It also has force. Okay, just not having amplitude and frequency, it is also having a force, and that force which is applied to the inner ear at the stapes foot plate is 18 to 22 times the sound pressure at the tympanic membrane. That's what I said. When you suppose you have 1 unit of energy force that is applied to the tympanic membrane, because of this aerial ratio and lever ratio, this 1 unit energy, by the time it reaches the foot plate of the stapes, it becomes 18 times 18 units of energy or 22 units of energy, depending on whether you think 55 is a vibratory area or 45 is a vibratory area of the tympanic membrane. This more than compensates the loss of sound energy because of the change of medium. Now, this forms the basis of what we call the Rennie's test. Okay, what is Rennie's test? Now we will come to that also. We will talk about Rennie's test also. Rennie's test basically says that air conduction in a normal person is better than bone conduction. Now for a long time I really did not understand why is air conduction greater than bone conduction. I basically memorized it, but air conduction is more than because of the transformer action of the middle ear. Now if you remove this, if you understand this, understanding Rennie's test becomes easy for you. Okay, suppose we will have an example. Suppose there is a sound intensity, let us say 30 decibels of, it is presented via the tuning fork in front of the external auditory canal. So this is the external auditory canal, and then it goes through the entire thing, external ear, middle ear and inner ear, and then you take the base of the tuning fork, again 30 decibels, and you place it over the mastoid. This is external auditory canal, you place it at the mastoid. So this 30 decibels is perceived as 30 decibels by the brain, but this 30 decibels, because of the middle ear transformer action, this is increased, the force of the sound is increased. So tentatively, like for example, it is heard as 50 decibels by the brain. by the central nervous system. So this is what is happening. Okay, you have the same tuning fork, you're presenting it in front of the external artery canal and you're presenting it on the mastoid. It is the same energy that of the external artery canal or on the mastoid. So if you put it on the external artery, in front of the external artery canal, what we are testing is the air conduction. If you place it on the mastoid, what we are testing is the bone conduction. But air conduction is better than bone conduction. Why? Because of the transformer action of middle ear. Because of transformer action of middle ear. So it takes the 30 decibel sound and increase it. I don't know, man. I don't want to go to the physics of it. I am not a physics professor, but it increases sound 18 to 22 times. So it is definitely more than 30 decibels. So for example, I'm just putting it 50 decibels so that you guys can basically remember. So the sound that is passing through the middle ear, the central nervous system will hear it louder compared to the sound wave directly from the bone conduction. That is, here also it's going to cause vibration of the bone, and that vibration is passed on through directly it is going to the inner ear fluids. It is bypassing the middle ear transformer action. So directly the inner ear, the perilymph and the endolymph, the vibration is directly reaching there. Okay, so it's bypassing the transformer action, so it is lesser. It is going through the middle ear, because of which there is transformer action, because of which the force of sound is increased. So the brain perceives it as a louder sound, for example 50 decibels. I hope I have made this clear. Thank you. Please do subscribe and also share it with your friends. Please don't be like, only I want to pass the exam. We don't want our colleagues and our friends to pass the exam. I want to get more marks. So we want everyone to at least pass, because life as a doctor is already very tough. Let us not try to make it more tougher. Thank you so much.